Hi everybody, Susan Storm here, and today I want to get into how ISFPs experience stress, what creates stress for them, what can help them deal with stress, and what that pesky grip experience is like for ISFP. If you're not sure who I am, I'm the founder of a website called psychologyjunkie.com where I've written over 1,000 articles about the 16 Myers-Briggs personality types as well as the 9 Enneagram types. I've also written several books about type, including Discovering You, Unlocking the Power of Personality Type. So, without further ado, let's jump right into the ISFP stress experience. When life isn't very stressful, they're normally very accepting, creative, open-minded people. They very much believe in marching to the beat of their own drum and following their heart, even if it goes against what mainstream society expects. Because of that, they have a very individualistic streak and a very original sense of creativity. Often this shows up in creative pursuits like art or music, or writing, or it can show up in the way they dress in a very specific individual sense of style that isn't what you just see in a run-of-the-mill day-to-day style. For the ISFP, it's important to be appreciated for who they are as an individual, even when they stand out, even when they are going against the norm. It's important also to affirm other people's individuality, and they really work hard to do that. Many ISPs believe in sticking up for the underdogs, for the misfits, for the people who are not quite the same as everyone else, because that's how they feel. They often are very cooperative, they're very affirming, they're very gentle and easygoing, but they can also become very fiery and intense and even argumentative in defense of the values that are very important to them. If someone tries to tell them who to be, how to be, and prescribe a certain behavior to them instead of recognizing and respecting their individuality, then the ISFP can go from being very gentle and easygoing to being combative, argumentative, or just pulling away entirely. Now let's look at some of the things that create stress for ISFP. One of those things is feeling like they're being micromanaged. ISFPs like an unstructured life. They really crave freedom. They like to put their creative spin on things. If someone's micromanaging everything they're doing, they tend to feel very trapped and stifled, and they also don't feel appreciated for their own independent initiatives and their own independent contributions. This is definitely a major source of stress for them. And this tends to be why they pursue creative career fields or also independent entrepreneurial pursuits. I know many ISFPs who are bloggers. That's the world I'm in, so maybe that's why I'm meeting so many of these, but also many ISFPs who are freelance photographers and do a lot of freelance work. ISFPs are also overrepresented in the nursing fields and the medical fields. They really want to have a practical impact on people that really helps them. So one thing that creates stress for ISFPs is not feeling like what they're doing is having any meaning or contribution to the world. I know an ISFP, she's a police officer, and the reason she does that is she wants to keep the world safer. She wants to help people who are in dangerous situations. Now, she has a lot of issues with some of the bureaucracy and some of the corruption that has happened within the police force, but she still believes by being a part of it, she can improve the whole thing and she can make life better for other people. And while that was a really tough decision for her, she just really wanted to feel like she could make a real practical physical impact on the world around her and really help people. And that was her drive. So, work that feels meaningless, work that feels rote and mundane, work that feels like you're being managed, really creates stress for ISFPs. Another thing is conflict. ISFPs and most feeling types despise conflict. That said, ISFPs will not necessarily shy away from conflict in defense of the underdog, in defense of their values, in defense of their personal ethics. It depends on the ISFP. If you meet an ISFP Enneagram 9, they're probably going to be a little bit more laid back and soft spoken when it comes to conflict. Whereas if you meet an ISFP Enneagram 8 or an Enneagram 1, they're probably going to be more direct about it. Another thing that creates stress for ISFPs is having multiple demands on their time, having to do a lot of multitasking. Another thing is upcoming deadlines. That creates a lot of stress for them. Another thing is not getting enough alone time. This is so important for introverts. If they are in a situation where they're constantly around other people, say they're working in a busy setting or they have a lot of kids that they have to take care of and they're constantly having to interact, then this is going to create a lot of stress. They need time on their own to get in touch with their feelings, to process what's going on. Everything can start to feel so overstimulating that's almost painful if they have to spend too much time around other people. Another stressor for ISFPs is feeling like politically or culturally speaking, they are forced to conform. Or maybe they feel like the country representing them is going against their values or their ethics, or they're seeing what looks like corruption. This can create a whole lot of stress for them, and they are often the first people who will sign up to be at a protest or to write something or to stick up for people that they feel are being marginalized, persecuted, or treated unfairly. Now, what happens when ISFPs first experience stress? What happens when ISFPs are going through everyday stress? When this happens, ISFPs are going to lean more into their introverted feeling function. This is the dominant function of the ISFP. This is the function that they live and breathe without really having to put a lot of conscious energy into it. So introverted feeling is very much about understanding what moves you on a core ethical level, what matters to you personally, what you believe is right or wrong, what you would fight or even die for. It's a constant drive to understand what matters to you as an individual and also a willingness to fight for it, to defend it. It's also the part of an ISFP that questions mainstream edicts or mainstream societal rules because they go, is this actually authentic? Why is this right or wrong? Does it make sense to me? Does this feel right to me? So ISFPs are often questioning these big moral edicts or the things that everyone else just accepts as being the right way to be. They will question that and try to find out, does this actually make sense for me? Does this feel right for me? How do I really feel? Is this actually right or wrong, or is this just a social expectation? So when ISFPs first experience stress, they're going to lean more into their introverted feeling. They're going to want to pull away from people to process their feelings. They can be more hypersensitive during this time. They might seem more easily offended. You might feel like you have to walk on eggshells around them. They are more apt to take everything personally when they're experiencing this kind of stress. Criticism usually hits especially hard during this time, and it's really important if you are close to an ISFP and if it's not super important to avoid criticizing them or offering constructive criticism till they're at a better place. The reason for this is if you give them a lot of criticism when they're already stressed, it can actually push them into a grip experience, which we'll get to in a little bit. Now, what happens if stress is ongoing is that sometimes they can overuse their dominant function and over rely on it, trying to make it solve everything. And unfortunately, introverted feeling isn't the right hammer for all the nails, even though introverted feeling dominant types tend to feel like it is. We all, regardless of our personality types, tend to think that our dominant function is the right tool for all the jobs. And so what happens is when we experience stress, we tend to keep using that dominant function over and over again, and it doesn't necessarily fit every single problem, and we end up wearing it out in the process. So what happens is ISFPs who are experiencing chronic or really extreme stress can have what's called a grip stress reaction, and that's when they've worn out their dominant introverted feeling function, and now they're in the grip of their inferior function, which is called extroverted thinking. And in many ways, this is the antithesis to introverted feeling. Extroverted thinking is very much focused on objective, detached logic, empirical evidence, making something work, getting things done, pointing out flaws in logic or errors in your environment, and creating a structured, organized workflow in order to achieve a particular objective. Extroverted thinking is not so concerned with your own internal feelings about something, it's more concerned with results, metrics, what will pass and what will fail, what works. So ISFPs who are now in the grip of extroverted thinking, they might blurt out harsh truths or they might seem really cynical. They tend to be very self-critical and also potentially critical of others. It seems to them like there are flaws and errors all around them that they have to fix or correct. Often during these grip stages, they can be very critical and judgmental of other people's incompetence or of their own incompetence. They just feel like incompetence is everywhere and they've got to fix it. They often feel a restless urge to get things done, to finish everything on their to-do list, to meet the deadline, to solve problems, to finish projects, to fix mistakes. They just get into this very critical, controlled, troubleshooting mode. I've spoken to quite a few ISFPs who have encountered these grip stress phases, and usually afterwards, they feel a lot of intense regret about how harsh they were with others, regret about their their intense effort to fix everything and sometimes making things worse in the process because they're doing it very restlessly and impulsively and not with a lot of caution and careful thought, and regret over just how hard they were even on themselves. So many times these group reactions feel out of control. It almost feels like an out of body experience. Like you're watching, like the ISFP is watching from up above, going, why are you doing that? Why are you saying these things? Why are you acting in this way? But they feel like they can't necessarily control it. So it's a very stressful, overwhelming experience. That said, the grip is there for a reason. It's not always bad. The outcome of the grip is not always bad. The grip can remind us of the importance of our inferior function, of that balance. All of us need to have a healthy relationship between our dominant function and our inferior function. So if you are a dominant intuitive type, then you need to have a good balance of sensing in there as well. If you're a dominant introverted feeling type, like an ISFP, then you still need to have a healthy relationship with your thinking side. Going through a grip experience can help you to realize the importance of objectivity. It can help you to realize tasks that need to be done that maybe have been on the back burner for too long. The inferior function also helps us to have a sense of humility, to know, hey, we don't always get it right. An ISFP who has gone through a grip experience and come out the other side may evaluate their life choices and see where maybe they've been inefficient or unproductive. Like maybe they've had a particular passion for something and they've stayed in their head about it, but they haven't really gotten anywhere. And going through that grip experience where they were really in get things done mode can help them to have an insight about a strategy that they can use to complete something. It can also help them to pinpoint little flaws in their thinking, because extroverted thinking is very much about objectivity and logic. And so an ISFP who's gone through the grip experience and then come out the other side might have developed an insight into certain flaws in their logic along the way. That isn't to say that we should all try to get into the grip. Often a grip results in actions that we wish hadn't happened. But going through the grip is a reminder of the importance of a healthy relationship with that inferior function. So one of the reasons that when we're in the grip, we tend to react in these really irrational or overreactive ways, and all types do it, it's not just ISFPs. One of the reasons that this happens is because we aren't giving that inferior function much of a chance to breathe. We tend to focus all our energy on our top functions, and then the inferior function, we're like, I don't really want to go there because it tends to feel very vulnerable. We tend to feel very insecure when we're trying to access our inferior function. And so when it takes the wheel, it's operating at a very immature level of development. So if you are using extroverted thinking regularly, then it gets stronger, it gets more powerful, it gets more honed and more precise. But if you're not using it, if you're just sweeping it under the rug all the time, then it stays immature, it stays unhealthy. And so when it takes over in these really extreme and impulsive and irrational ways. So one of the ways to make sure that you have better stress or you have a better grip reaction is to take little bite-sized moments of time throughout the day when you're not stressed and preemptively develop a relationship with your inferior function. This can look like questioning your values and asking, okay, I believe this particular thing is right and this other particular thing is wrong. And then using extroverted thinking to point out potential flaws in your logic or things you might not be seeing. Now, again, you need to do this when you're already at an okay state of mind, and don't feel like you have to do it for an hour or two. Take 5 minutes and write down a belief you have, and then write down a potential logical argument. Now try to defend that belief using facts and logic and evidence. That's a small way that you can exercise your extroverted thinking function. Another way that you can exercise that function is by picking a small goal or task and coming up with a strategy to get it done sooner or more efficiently, and then actually following through. Now, it doesn't have to be this big, giant goal, right? It's not like I need to finish this entire novel by next month, right? Pick something small, start small, and gradually go from there. It could be like, man, I haven't been working out like I meant to for the last month. So what I'm going to do is create a strategy that every morning after I brush my teeth, I'm just going to put on my exercise shoes. That's it. I'm just going to put on my exercise shoes. It's taken from Atomic Habits. Those of you who've read it might recognize this. I'm just going to put my shoes on. Then once you get your exercise shoes on, you're more likely to be like, all right, I might as well go for a run, or I might as well do my calisthenics. And so you just take small steps at a time and say that my strategy to working out is just to do 3 minutes of working out every day. And I'm just going to start by just putting on my workout shoes after I brush my teeth every morning and having that specific time and having that specific simple task to get you jump started can be really effective. So it can be as simple as finding an effective way to do something small every day and then just going from there. And as you develop more of a tolerance for extroverted thinking, which is very much, again, about evidence, about objectivity, about logic, and also about organizing your world, the world around you, to achieve your objectives in a very efficient, fast, effective way. Finding ways to do that in small bite-sized chunks can be really helpful. Don't try to do that when you're in the middle of grip stress, because that's just going to push you further into the grip and that can really backfire. So when you're in the grip of stress, one of the most important things for ISFPs to do is to just get your body under control. So many times we try to deal with stress by thinking about it, by solving it, when really what we need to do is take care of our physical body. So this could mean getting away from everybody else and breathing, focusing on some breathing exercises that are really simple, like box breathing or the 4-7-8 method, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 7, and exhale for 8. There's many breathing exercises that you can do that kind of trick your mind into feeling like your body is more relaxed and therefore you're feeling less physical stress. You can also take an intake of your body's overall needs. Have you had enough water to drink? Are you hungry? Are you tired? Do you have a headache? Do you need to take an ibuprofen? Things like that. Once you get your body feeling better and more stabilized, then you can deal with the stress more effectively because you're not operating from a place of panic or that giant rush of cortisol that happens when you feel really stressed. Another thing you can do when you're in the grip of stress is just to take some time on your own to reflect, to meditate, to focus on who you are and the kind of person you want to be. Don't use this time to criticize or lambaste yourself, but really use it to focus in on who you are. Remind yourself of the positive kind of person you want to be, the things that you love about yourself, and take that time to get into a healthy version of your introverted feeling. You can also try to get into your second function, which is extroverted sensing. And you can do this by getting out and taking a walk and really noticing the sights and sounds and details around you. Don't just walk and be in your head, but notice the flowers, notice the breeze, notice everything you can physically. Stop and literally smell the roses if you can. This gets you into your senses. It gets you more into the present moment and less into that flurried, anxious state. Another thing you could do is try to focus on what is right rather than what is wrong. When you're in the grip of extroverted thinking, you tend to see errors and flaws and problems all around you. They will just overwhelm you. You will just see red flags everywhere. And so one of the things you can do is get alone, get away from it all for a little bit, and focus on what is actually right. Try to make a list of things that are going right for you. Make a list of things that you or others have done well, and try to refocus your energy in that way rather than getting obsessed with solving everything. Once you do that, once you get calmed down, once you get out of that grip state, then you can more effectively solve the problems. But it's hard to do when you're all amped up and restless and charged and you're just panicking. We don't do our best thinking at times like that. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope that if you are an ISFP and you're experiencing stress, that you can find some relief. I know how hard this is. I know how overwhelming this can be. I'm an INTJ, but I also have experienced grip stress. We all have, and we all know how overwhelming it can be. So I hope this has been helpful. Definitely check out my website if you'd like to find out more about ISFPs. My website is psychologyjunkie.com, and I'll leave a few links in the description below. If you'd like to talk to me personally and get help clarifying your type or understanding your ISFP type, then I will also leave a link for that in the description. I can do type clarification sessions for you if you're feeling unsure about your type, or if you'd like to know more about how your mind works or how your cognitive functions work, I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and help you understand what introverted feeling is, what extroverted sensing is, what intuition is, how intuition shows up for you, and answer any questions that you have about that as well. So I'll leave a link in the description. Contact me if you would like to talk with me one-on-one in a Zoom session to understand yourself better. I've been doing this for many years now. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, be sure to leave those in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.